Hi, I'm Rufael, a non-student in International Studies program at RMIT. I began my life as a researcher last year, writing on US foreign policy initiatives for ethnic minorities in Colombia. Since then, I focused my studies on Latin America, and last summer I worked as a research assistant in Chile. During my degree, I also learned Spanish, practicing with Chileans and Colombians studying in Melbourne. This sparked my interest in Australia's engagement with Latin America. These encounters are what motivated me to learn more about Australia's education ties with the region. My thesis looks at the global context of Brazilian and Colombian student movement in order to understand how Australia can better engage with these countries. The first section gives a statistical overview of Brazilian and Colombian mobility tendencies and Australia's position within this. Secondly, I look at policy frameworks for students funded through the Culfutura and Science Without Borders scholarship programs and the impact political rationale has had here. The final section examines visa arrangements, local political and economic climate, and diaspora communities as factors which influence how self-funded students make their decisions. While writing, I have cited a few key works. Elizabeth Cath's New Links in a Changing Global Landscape explores the economic, cultural, and political ties between Australia and Latin America. Within its global compass, this book helps to understand the role education plays in areas like trade and business. Jane Knight's 2004 study on internationalization, motivations, and outcomes points out how and why actors like universities and governments choose to internationalize their higher education sectors, making the case that amongst other things, this rationale is mostly shaped by political and economic ambitions. Calderon presents the Australia-Latin America education relationship through trade flows for accessing new student markets. He argues that increased bilateral trade and foreign direct investment promotes student recruitment and in turn, student mobility. An issue with the research today is that it primarily focuses on university-level education and when looking at Australia omits the role of sending countries in their respective programs. My research aims to make a more well-rounded contribution by understanding state-backed mobility as well as VET and ELICOS enrollments, which make up some 70% of Latin Americans studying in Australia. This wider compass helps better inform Australian government policy, with education being the fourth largest national export. This is made more important as a recent strategy on international education mentions Brazil and Colombia as targets for VET and ELICOS enrollments. This comprehensive understanding of international education makes for more meaningful engagement and is important for setting up successful policy direction and recruitment strategies. I am currently in the final phases of my thesis. At this stage, I have organized most of my findings and am placing them in coherent arguments. At the moment, I am trying to better understand the trade incentives for international education, as well as the economics behind individual decisions. I am also trying to meet with industry personnel to see how feasible some of my arguments and policy recommendations would be in the real world. All this while regularly consulting with my supervisor to meet set deadlines.